when we think about sort of call it like the completion of an act of service, let's call it that, right? Like, let's say there's a cycle to that. If we think about it in that way, well, then there has to be a value produced, right, at the end, right? To be of good service to someone, we have to give them something and produce something for them or ourselves of value, right? That can feel like a very external process. It's like, well, everybody outside of me, right, in a way that's going to either grow my self-esteem, how I think that they think of me, or diminish my self-esteem, has to decide that my reach and my intent of service had value. Okay. Part of the reason why I'm going into that area is because it brings forward the word value. Okay. Because I feel like the thing that completes the circuit of service, of value, right? If we close that loop, it's the same word with an S added to the end, right? So it's service of value that I hope other people can see, right? Where the disconnect is that oftentimes we're not, and we'll get into this as we go, we're not taught what increases our chances of being of service in a valuable way. We're actually going to talk the opposite of that, to be honest, which we'll get into more. But the third word there, so service of value, is the word values, right? Values. Okay. We're often taught to be of service in a way that others will value that is in contradiction to our own values, right? That brings back the idea of alignment again. So we've got three of those crucial components to being of service in a valuable way that's also including your values. If we've only got 2 out of 3 of those elements in alignment, well, then we've got a big disconnect that doesn't allow us to close the circuit, right? And then we get kind of reliant upon having other people's judgment of our reaches to service being the only source of the determination of their value. Okay, so then we can end up in, well, I'm trying to be really hard to service. I'm trying to do what everybody's asking me to do all the time. I'm trying to show up the way that they need. I'm listening. I'm looking out for what they want. I give it to them and then they don't value it. Or they value it less than I feel like they should. Or they not only don't value it, they tell me that it has no value, right? All of those kinds of things are going to create that resentment, that frustration, that potential sense of anger, because it feels like no matter how much you intend, right, to provide and be of value, something short-circuiting, right? The thing I'm putting forward here, and again, just sharing it, reject it if it doesn't make sense or doesn't move you, is that if what we're putting forward as valuable to others in a way of service isn't connected to our own internal values, then our ability to provide things of value and then receive the validation of the value from others is greatly diminished. I feel like this is an inherent adjustment of realignment that we can all make, okay? Because we have the privilege of talking to so many people about money, right? And we get this big cross section of like people who have lots of it, people who don't have any of it, people who have lots but don't think it's ever enough, people who have very little but are settling for it because they think that that's all they can have, right? Like, we've learned a lot about this topic solely just because we talk to so many people about it on a regular basis. And back to weather.